Well, thanks to everyone who came. I'm sorry that we have run out of time. There's more questions that we couldn't get to. I would love to talk to all of you guys longer. Next time, maybe we can do some podcasts with each of you and people can tune into that. So, Seton, thank you very much for coming and showing us your gadgets. Mike, thanks for joining us and giving us your expertise on the limits of human performance.
Thank you.
Bobby, as always, it's a pleasure to hear your comments about running from athletes all over the world and all the different skill levels that you've worked with.
Thanks for having me.
And Terry, it's a pleasure.
Yeah, I loved doing this. Let's do it again.
That's what I was going to say.
All right, maybe on Thursday. And folks, just to remind you guys, on the video page, there's some buttons that will take you right to Total Immersion Academy, to the runtransformation.com. So it's totalimmersionacademy.com, runtransformation.com. Trisports.com has got the nifty fun gadgets. And I think that's it for now. I think we've got a trailer to play for you if the video is continuing to work well. So thanks for coming, everyone, and join us again soon.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
I am incredibly lucky to have found this thing that I just love to do and that I seem to have an knack for, and that doesn't feel like work. I'm a bigger believer that talent is something that you learn rather than something you're born with. And that's been supported by quite a bit of pretty serious research. Absolutely, it's true that certain people are born with certain advantages. Michael Phelps was unquestionably born with certain physical advantages over other people. But that much said, you can't really do anything about that, so why would you dwell on that? You know, if you don't have Michael Phelps's talent, if you think about that, you're only going to think of yourself as limited. And I think it's far better to be thinking of your potential for developing what you have as being unlimited. And the research shows, and my experience also has demonstrated, that there's a certain set of behaviors that are characteristic among people who achieve a high degree of excellence, regardless of whether they were born with an innate knack for a thing, and that they are typically seen to do the same behaviors and to cultivate the same mindsets. And when you practice these behaviors and these mindsets, you can be Kaizen in anything you choose. And essential to any pursuit of excellence is that you be process-oriented and not outcome-oriented. You live in the present moment, and you try to make the present moment as good as it can be, and you let the future take care of itself. So no, I don't really think about what might happen with my swimming or what outcome I might have in a week or even an hour. I'm focused on this minute. How good can I make this minute? And at the end of the hour, 60 great minutes adds up to something.
There's one other figure that has been really prominent in my triathlon journey as far as a mentor and a role model, and that would be Terry Laughlin. I would love to talk about how Terry got involved in my life and my education as a triathlon coach, but Terry, who's the founder of Total Immersion, is really very skilled at what he does, which is teaching swimming, and he's a very skilled swimmer himself. And his way of conveying what he knows about swimming and understands about it, and the way that he's developed a system where other people can learn how to swim without struggling or fighting against the water, has been, not only a very specific technical side of my triathlon coaching, but his whole approach to seeing swimming as an art, and how do you take this art and convert it into grace and speed. How do you take something that's so artful and apply it to a practical situation, which is a triathlon? It's really just helped me change a lot of how I think about teaching and how I think about approaching specific athlete problems.
I actually don't push myself physically. I'm always pushing myself mentally and sort of out at the edge, the very periphery of my awareness. I'm dimly aware in the midst of doing a difficult task that what I call sensation, other people may refer to it as pain, I just call it sensation, sometimes intense, right? I can feel that at the edges of my focus. In the center of my focus is one thing, which is I swim quite often with a particular targeted stroke count I'm trying to hold and a certain tempo, which I'm hearing a beep that's giving me the tempo for a certain duration, a certain distance. And my whole world is about the beep, the sensation of the stroke I'm trying to execute, right? And knowing a small change in sensation means I'm going to add a stroke and add a second, if that's what my tempo frequency is, when I get to the next wall, and avoiding that missed moment, that nanosecond in the stroke where something small goes wrong. And I just am very aware of the sensation of a high efficiency stroke. I'm trying to keep executing those strokes, every stroke in that beep, in that beep, in that beep. And it requires, I'm usually setting myself a task, that combination of stroke count and tempo, I'm usually setting a task that's really exacting. If my attention wavers for a moment, I have that nanosecond of error. And I just try to eliminate those nanoseconds of error. So it's an incredibly intense experience to be doing that for an hour, but at the same time, it's unbelievably energizing. I will have worked hard physically at times, and I come out with more energy than I went in, physical, mental, and spiritual. I'm an intensely competitive person when it comes to open water swimming. I like to race. I like to win my age group. I like to beat people who are younger than me, and so on. I like to be recognized as a very good open water swimmer. I know that in my practice, I've designed my practice to include tasks that improve the skills that win races. I know what the skills that win races are, and I really focus my practice on honing the skills that win races. I don't spend any time doing something that doesn't in some way prepare me to race better. And yet when it really comes down to it, while I'm doing that practice, I am not giving a thought to the next race, how I might do, any of that stuff. All I'm thinking about is the task of the moment.
I start a workout at the pool that I swim at in New York. I lose sense of time completely. I have no idea how much time is going by. The experience changes from you. No, it's interesting because in Terry's method you work on focal points, very specific kinds of things for lengths of time. But when you put them together, you don't think about how your arm is going in and how your leg is moving and how your head is. The whole gestalt changes. It's an entire, the whole feeling of moving is what makes it such a unique experience to me.
A lot of what people do for exercise, I sometimes call it the Western industrial exercise complex, which is you think of people in gyms on these ranks of aerobic machines, and they're watching TV and they're reading magazines and they're paying no attention to what they're doing. They just want to burn calories and burn fat and burn all sorts of things while not really thinking about what they're doing, because it's not that much fun, it's a little drudgery, it's a bit of an obligation, it's a checkoff, and so on. And what we're really trying to get people to do is make this switch, not just to mindfulness, but to having every moment be pleasurable, not wait for the delayed gratification. In 3 months' time, I'm going to weigh 10 pounds less, all right? But right this hour, right this minute, I'm going to have an amazingly great time in swimming by understanding it better, by connecting with it mentally, emotionally, spiritually, by putting my whole self into it. And that's what those drills are really about. They're about teaching you to reframe the whole way you approach swimming. I mean, your concept of it and your sense of that it's a practice, not a workout, and so on. So it is a shift from a Western industrialized to a more Eastern and much more personal way of doing swimming. And it takes it away from being exercise. I don't even think anymore of swimming as exercise. I think of it as a movement art where exercise happens. And I'm happy it does, but I don't do it as exercise.
I must tell you, I swim much better than I walk these days.
I want to emphatically add that adopting this idea instead of chasing speed that may come later and feeling that I must work, I must expend energy to get it, all right, what we're trying to get people to do is shift swimming from the work area, all right, and when you exercise, you have in your mind that it's work. You don't think of exercise as play. It's the serious thing that you must do not to be fat. And then you get into a sport like triathlon or open water swimming, and to the work you add obligation. And what's fun about that? So we're trying to get people to have a more playful attitude about it and seek to feel freedom, to exercise creativity, to feel this is a very personal thing, and to feel that way every moment. And it does not in any way mean you're complacent about having good results. I am not in the least bit complacent. I've won 6 national championships and broken national records on 3 occasions. I am no way complacent, all right? I practice in the way I just described, but I still expect to have high-level performance outcomes as a result of feeling this very personal connection that I always love what I do. I'm not pushing myself because I'm scheduled to go to the pool today.
In order to be a great coach, you've got to, I think people don't care what you know until they know how much you care. And with Terry, it's, you really see it. And I think you see it most because, in my opinion, Terry is the best coach in North America ever. But he's choosing to give up some of the limelight that might come with coaching the elite athletes and taking it to the masses. And I was fortunate to be a part of that, where he's not saying, I have to work at the most prestigious swimming university in the United States. Let me just work at West Point, which isn't, the hotbed for the best swimmers in the world, and let me work with the most underperforming group. And you see it right from his initial interaction with people that he's not saying, here's my resume and I need to work with the best athletes. He's saying, here's my knowledge base and I want to share it with everyone, regardless, and I get as much enjoyment seeing a person learn to swim or complete 25 yards as I do someone breaking a record in Division I at West Point, or someone completing their first triathlon. And it's a genuine appreciation for all of it that you just see, and it just makes him so much more effective than a lot of people.
I had 2 mentors when I started in coaching. Actually, they weren't mentors so much as people I wanted to emulate. My college coach, Dick Krempecki, who, when I asked him as a senior if we could do morning workouts, he came in early, and at first it was me and 6 or 7 other people, and a few weeks later it was just me. And Dick would come in, and he would sit on the bench and watch me swim for an hour and a half, and I still get emotional thinking about Dick being willing to do that for me, even though I wasn't a very good swimmer, so I wanted to be like Dick. And I also had another coach named Bill Irwin, who coached me in club swimming, not in college. And Bill and Dick were 2 completely different personalities. Dick would give essentially unchanging workouts, pretty much the same thing every day, but that very dependability allowed you to compare your performances from one month and 1 week to the next month and the next week. Bill was completely the opposite, which is that you could never tell what you were going to get from Bill. He was pretty imaginative. He was unpredictable. He loved to teach. Dick Krempecki was a training coach. In 4 years, he might have said a few sentences to me about technique, whereas Bill Irwin really loved to teach, and he made it fun to be there. He really, you really sensed he enjoyed being there with you, and it made you enjoy being there with him. So I kind of distilled the best from both coaches in my own coaching. From Krempecki, to convey that you really care, to convey that your commitment to the athlete is unconditional. And from Irwin, it was loving to teach. We know at this point that no matter what swimming problem you come to us with or challenge, we can tell you with high confidence that we have seen that problem 10,000 times before, and we have followed this process, and with a high degree of consistency, that process has brought people the solution they were looking for. And that's initially, that's all we want to do, is give them the confidence that they invest themselves, their time and their money in what we're going to ask them to do, that it's very likely it's going to be paid off with a good outcome.
I would recommend TI Academy, not just for the master swimmer who wants to, or the swimmer with the background who wants to master and look at the finer details, but also for the swimmer, the newbie, if you will, that doesn't really understand the mechanics, the philosophy of swimming. Wants it broken down, but wants some vehicle for putting it back together so that it makes a difference.
We've recognized for a long time that the techniques we teach are revolutionary. I think that's pretty widely acknowledged that the stroke techniques we teach are techniques that no one has taught before, the balance, the streamline emphasis, and so on, the particularity of the little details of the stroke that other people generally overlook, that we recognize are consequential and we pay a lot of attention to. That's revolutionary. Nobody's done that before. At the same time, in the last year or two, we've been developing methodologies for training that are equally revolutionary in terms of making training that's always been generic, one size fits all and formulaic, and making it empirical, that you always know exactly how you're doing, and entirely personal. That every time you do a set, just as I just described, my stroke count, my tempo, you will have your stroke count in your tempo, that you know this is your challenge zone. This range of stroke counts and tempos, it's yours and yours alone. And you'll be working in your own zone of improvement. And at the same time, you'll be working on the math that makes you faster. How many yards you do does not guarantee you go faster. What your heart rate does not predict in any way how fast you're going to swim. How far you travel on a stroke and how frequently you take those strokes, stroke length and stroke rate, are the math, the only absolute that exists in the pace you will swim. So we are teaching people to focus on this, the real math of swimming, and to do it in a way that always is 100% personal. So that in itself, and the fact that all of these tasks we designed are designed around what we know about how the brain processes inputs. The body still will metabolize energy according to the task you design. A more difficult task will result in a different level of energy metabolism. It's pretty simple, right? But in any case, that training methodology is equally revolutionary to the technique methodology we had been developing over prior years. So with the training and technique being revolutionary, the next thing that we want to do is break new ground in the delivery of that information to people and make it much more available around the world. And we're doing that with our TI Academy, the Coach Academy, and the Swimmers Academy. Total Immersion Academy is for anyone who would like to swim better, anyone who would like to enjoy swimming more, swim with more ease, set and achieve goals in swimming.
If you're considering the Total Immersion Academy and you have any doubts at all, let me assure you that you can achieve whatever goals you have through the Total Immersion Academy. Terry Laughlin has a wealth of knowledge, experience at every level, working with people who are trying to learn to swim, to Division I athletes, to people who are going on to the Olympics. And he can design a program that will suit you and suit your needs to get to the level you want to get to.
Back in 1965 or so, when I went to my local library looking for a book on swimming, there was one book, and it had been published in 1942, 22 years earlier. The Total Immersion Academy contains a library itself. And the library has in it a wealth of information that'll answer any question the average person can possibly have about how to swim better, how to enjoy practice more, how to do things that are going to bring you the outcomes you're looking for, how to minimize missteps and misdirection, how to feel confident about what you're doing, how to make good use of your time. And it will be on the whole range of the things you need to know to enjoy your swimming and do it well. It consists of ebooks, it consists of PDFs, it consists of books with embedded videos, it consists of webinars, it consists of streaming video. Any way you can think of to convey information digitally is in there.
And the TI Academy then sort of puts that together. I mean, I'm actually jealous. When I started this, it wasn't around. I mean, you had lessons that you took and some things you could read, some ways that you could understand, and some exercises that you could do. But I'm actually jealous of people now that can have access to where it all comes together, broken down, put back together, so that it help you and actually help, not discourage, not to make you think, oh, you know, I don't just want to do this anymore. You know, that's enough. I'm getting tired of getting up at 5 in the morning and swimming, or, you know, swimming's become a chore. Rather, the Academy gives you the tools that you can make swimming something that's enjoyable and a nice part of your life, not a chore. And for me, that's been incredibly valuable.
The